Yo, what is going on today, YouTube? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Monday's video was the items for assassins, so you know what Wednesday's video's gotta be. We're gonna be doing a tier list on the assassins, talking about the strongest gods in the game for assassins and the weakest gods in the game for the assassin class. And let's just jump right into this exciting tier list. So S tier is this is the best assassin in the game. Yesterday, we talked about the top 10 ranked gods, so it's no surprise that the number one god is going to be Arachne. She dominates early game, very safe at farming. She is very good when comms aren't usually used, and comms are never very... I won't say never. They're very rarely used in ranked. Arachne really dominates games that aren't really using those comms. She's very good early, very good mid game. Late game, she falls off a tiny bit, but that's only in 5v5s. Her late game 1v1 is still incredibly strong. And her build right now is also very good. Therefore, Arachne S tier, strongest god in the game. Mifflin really likes Awilix. I, on the other hand, do not. I think she is very weak. I think unless you are very good on Awilix, there's very few reasons to use her. Her team reliance is very high. She's also blink reliant. I think she's still a very strong 1v1 character, but a lot of the times she still just gets smoked. I'm not a fan of her. Her build is fine right now, but you very rarely see her played, and when she is played, it doesn't usually look that great. Bakasura, even though I think these auto attack junglers aren't in a great spot, I think Bak is still going to be okay. He farms pretty well, even though he's still Golden Blade reliant. He's still a very good 1v1 character. If he does get a lead, he can still dominate games. I won't say that he's absolutely busted and you need to play him, not like at the beginning of this phase or at the beginning of this year, but I do think that he still has some strength, and I still think he's okay in some games. Bastet, I'll put Bastet in the same tier as Baka. I think there is an argument for her to be moved up into B tier, and maybe I do move her up later. I think her build right now is fine. I think if you go something like I into Soul Eater Jotuns, I think that is a very strong 3-item spike. I just think, why play her when her ult is on such a high cooldown? She's also pretty ult reliant, I would say. I don't think she's uber ult reliant, but her base kit and her ult don't really work all together too well. I still think she's fine. She's definitely better than Awilix, but I don't think she's up there with the gods like Arachne and also gods like Camazotz. Camazotz, one of the strongest gods in the game currently. I think his build is busted. I think his 1v1 potential is busted. I think overall, this character has very few weaknesses. And in his strengths, it's very hard to deal with him. He dives nearly every god very easily. He jumps onto your backliners. A lot of times you can't really do much about it except shield to them with your shell. His ability to banish himself from the battlefield and then also still be putting damage out is insane. He's also very, very safe with his jump and his ult. And he's also got a really low cooldown ult, or a really low cooldown jump. So overall, I think Camazotz is insane. I think he's very good. Very low reasons to not play him. Cleo, I think Cleo's in that range between Kama and Bastet. She is strong when she gets ahead. Her early game, she farms pretty well. I think she just feels like she needs Bluestone a lot, and I think that's maybe a weakness of her, and maybe that's a weakness of Bastet too. I think a Bluestone Cleo in mid or solo always is going to feel better than a Eye of the Jungle Cleo or even Boomba's Cleo. Because of that, I think she just feels better in laning phases than she does in the jungle. But late game, you're kind of going to get to that spot anyway, and you're going to be very, very strong. I just think it takes a lot to get there, and it's not too fun to try to get to that point also because you're kind of reliant on your team and the enemy starting fights and then you playing through walls. Next up, Dodgy. She's fine. She's kind of just counter pick reliant. If you're first picking and you pick Dodgy, you're just going to be playing against a bunch of gods with CC immunities and lots of them. Or you're going to be playing against something like Geb. So I think she's still okay. I think she's just more of a counter pick god than anything. She farms pretty well because of the buffs to her 1 or 2 cooldowns. Again, she's counter pick reliant. If you get her into a really good comp, she can feel absolutely busted. But if you pick her into a comp where she can't do anything, you'll just actually be useless and there's nothing you can do. So Dodgy B tier. Fenrir. Now this one is surprising to me because I think Fenrir is an insane ranked god. I think he picks apart most teams. Yes, he needs to be slightly like a counter pick. There's some comps that make it very hard to play Fenrir. But even then, you can kind of play him to just be a one-shot like Hydra's Boomba's character. But the surprising thing to me is Fenrir is one of the lowest win rate gods in the game right now, and maybe I'm overrating him and he should be lower. But in my experience, this character is just always dominating, and anytime I see him played or anytime I play him, it feels very easy and very hard to play against. I'm putting him in A tier, but I might be overrating him a little bit. Maybe he feels better in B tier. Yeah, I'll move him into B tier, but I think there's an argument to be said of him in A tier. Hunbots, fine character. Kind of like Dodgy in the fact that you're kind of wanting to counterpick with him and play a big team fight comp. If you're playing with no frontline solo laner and you're playing Hunbots and you're kind of diving by yourself, you're going to feel absolutely useless. But He has just an absolutely insane ult. His ult will always be good. He farms up pretty okay right now. I think his late game is maybe a little overrated. A lot of times you blink ult, they just beats it and kill you before anything even happens. But if you can blink ult and the fight's a little maybe disjointed for the enemy team, he can feel pretty okay. Kali's been nerfed a billion times and she's still a dominant ranked character. Yes, her early game isn't good. Yes, her mid game is maybe not too great either. But when the game goes late, and it almost always does in ranked, she is just insane. 1v5 machine, can kill everyone and heal back up to full health. Kali, goddess of destruction, goddess of destroying my ranked games, and yeah, she's an A tier god still for sure. Lance has kind of came back a little bit after the buff to his MP5 and the cooldown of his 1. We've seen a lot of it in ranked, or a lot of it in comp. We've seen Panatom play it, dominate with it. We've seen Twig look absolutely insane on Lancelot and struggle to play just about anything else. So there's a lot to be said about how good Lance is right now. I don't think he's nearly as good as Arachne. I think he's still lower than Camazotz and Kali in ranked. But if he gets a lead, it's very hard to shut him down, very hard to deal with him. That shield can be a big problem if he gets a lead. Yes, he struggles by not having a ton of CC, but I don't think it matters because I think his base damage is just super high. I think Loki's a fine character right now. I think a lot of these assassins have the same positive where they can almost always do something. I think Loki's problem is you kind of wait on your teammates to kind of do stuff, and you wait on the enemies to do stuff. You have good 1v1 potential, but a lot of times you're not 1v1ing. If you get a lead, yes, you can snowball very easily, but it's kind of hard to get a lead. Overall, I think Loki's a pretty average god. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's bad. I think you can farm up pretty easily. You can fight kind of easily. And I think you can go also the Bluestone poke build that feels really good. And I think even that will feel fine. I'm always going to be of the opinion that I think Mercury is a solid ranked god. Yeah, the enemy can build Spectral. It's always a possibility. But does that really matter? No. You go Seer and you just 1v1 objectives and just play through side lanes and just ult the enemy side laners, you can get a massive lead on this character and then just be un-1v1able even if they have Spectral. You kind of have to get ahead if you're behind at all. Mercury usually feels useless, but he farms so incredibly fast it doesn't really matter. He's also a god that doesn't need to go Golden Blade. He can just go Gooseberries, so he doesn't have to have that first item weird-ish spike. Mercury, in my opinion, is still going to be always at least an okay jungle god in ranked. Naja, I think Naja is more of a competitive god than a ranked god. This is a little tough. Put Naja in C tier. You're very skill shot reliant. Yes, you can build a little tankier, but even then, you're not going to be able to kill the enemy that well. I think most of these gods, when it goes late, you feel very confident in your ability to carry. I think Naja doesn't have that as much. I think you're very team reliant. I do think that she still has the upside of, I think Runeforge is really strong right now, and he can build Runeforge. I said she, I've just called Naja, said she for Naja for like my entire career playing Smite. Somebody called me out last time I made a video and said Naja's she. It's Naja she. I just mess it up a lot. He is very strong. If he does get ahead, yes, you can get ahead. Yes, you can kind of snowball games. But if you are behind, he is a little bit more useless and you will kind of just be fodder for the enemy team. Nemesis, I think Nem is bad. I think there is almost every other assassin on this list that is better to be played. You can, get leads. Yes, you can kill tanks with your ultimate. But no CC. You're reliant on your team. You don't really win all that many 1v1s because the enemies can just run away from you kind of. And so many of these junglers have CC to pull off your shield. I'm not going to put her any higher than D. I'm fine if you want to put her maybe into C tier. I just think I would rather have almost any other jungler over her. Next two we're going to do together. I was thinking about putting them both in S tier, but I think Arachne should just keep S tier by herself. Pele, Ratatasker. They're both kind of the same thing in they can both build full damage and just one-shot you, or they can build a little bit more tanky and be very utility heavy. Both build Runeforge, both build Dawnbringer pretty well. Both can go like a Mantle, Protector, play a little bit more tanky backline, harass more than actually killing. They're very strong early game. I think both these characters excel in ranked because of their abilities to chase enemies down. I think a lot of the times the enemies will get out 1 health. And if a jungler can run you down, chase you down, I think that's a big positive. I think they're both really strong early game. If they get a lead, like which they should, they're very strong mid game. And an ahead Pele and an ahead Rat are very, very hard to deal with. So both of them in the A tier. Robin, I think Robin's bad right now. Robin is almost always like a stat. What's the word? I think it's stat check. I think he's always a stat check god. Do you do enough damage to kill the enemy before just using your base cooldowns? Yes, Robin's going to be a good god. No, a lot of times, which he is currently, you're not going to be a very good god. You rarely see him played. He can be good, where if he gets a lead, kind of like Naja, you can dominate. But if he falls behind, he has no CC, very low damage outside of just maybe one person. His ult is fine, yes, but I'm just not a big fan of Robin, and I think he's pretty weak in the meta. Serket, I think, is the same as Naja. I think her best build currently is still just more tanky than full damage, and it's same with Nasha. I think Cirquette's also just got the skill shot side to her, where if you can hit a lot of skill shots, she's a lot better, but you're so reliant on hitting skill shots. Why play her when you can play any of these gods that don't really have any skill shots? Her ult is in a really bad spot currently. It doesn't really do that much damage. She doesn't have great 1v1 potential. Actually, no, I'll take that back. She's usually a pretty good 1v1 character. It's her 5v5 that she's really weak with. If you don't have a good 5v5, you have to be able to split push, but she doesn't split push that well. She's not really building full damage or building to actually kill Phoenixes. And I think gods like Arachne can split push a lot easier and a lot better. Set, I'm going to put Set a little bit lower in jungle. I think he is best in mid and he's best in solo lane, being able to build Sigil and then just have full damage outside of Sigil. And it makes him very hard to deal with, the mitigation on his 3 and the mitigation on his starter. You can farm up pretty okay. You can get a lead in jungle, yes. I just think why play him in jungle when you can play him in mid and solo? I guess I'll kick him up to B just because he is still good in jungle. I just think he's way better in mid and solo. Susano, after a pretty big nerf to him, 10% on his passive and 10 seconds on his ultimate, I'm going to move him down out of the A tier to the B tier. Very good at chasing down like Pele and Rat. I think he needs to farm up though a tiny bit. You kind of have to get your Jotuns online before you really look to fight. His early game is manageable. Not something you really want to do is fight into Susano because he's so safe. His ganks are very good, especially in duo because he has so much chase potential. But I just think the slight damage nerf and the slight cooldown nerf to him hurt him a little bit, so I'm going to move him down to B tier. Thanatos, I'm going to do it. I was going to put only Arachne in S tier, but Thanatos is an S tier god. This god dominates early, dominates mid, dominates late game. Pentakill god, also can pentakill early game. He snowballs fights really easily. A Thanatos that head is nearly impossible to deal with. I could say a billion good things about Thanatos, and my only negative is he has no hard CC in his base kit. I'm throwing Thanatos in S tier. I do think Arachne is slightly better, but I think Thanatos is absolutely insane too. I'm a hater of Thor. I'll say it. I think Thor in jungle in ranked is a bad pick, and I think there's a billion other good picks to be had over Thor. You're reliant on hitting your abilities, which a lot of gods aren't because their abilities are just so easy to hit. But if you're not hitting your abilities on Thor, you're doing just nothing. I also think he just plays a lot better in solo lane, playing a little bit more tankier style. He's fine. Yes, if you get ahead, yes, you're good. Yes, if you're hitting a lot of abilities, you're really good. But why risk it when you can just play easy gods like Arachne, Thana? I mean, I guess Kama has somewhat hard abilities, but he's just so much safer and you're just self-sustaining a lot. Thor is fine, but I'm not putting him any higher than C. And then the worst character in the game, for my opinion, is Tsukiyomi for jungles. Aegis just makes it so he just does nothing. He doesn't really poke all that well since the nerfs to his 1 and his 3. His 2, having no immunity to anything, is a problem because you just get stunned out of it and it takes so long to cast. I think if you're going to play him in solo lane and maybe be kind of somewhat not terrible. But I think Tsukiyomi is just not in a great spot, and I think he's been bad for a pretty long time. But that's the tier list. Let me know what you guys think about the tier list. Is there anybody that I had too low? Anybody that I had too high? Also, give me your thoughts on Pele after her nerfs. Are you guys still playing her? Do you think she's pretty strong, or do you think she's maybe gotten actually a lot weaker since her nerfs? Curious about that one, because I think Pele's still really strong, but it seems like she's maybe fallen off a little bit. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you guys again next time. Peace.